All right, guys. So my last couple of videos, I went back to kind of a beginner level on a couple of topics of handling images. I want to step this back up a little bit to the stuff I'm more comfortable with, just talking about how we style things. I'm just going to mute the speaker here. Okay, I'm going to do this warts and all. So what we're going to look at today is we're going to look at how to style forms in bricks. The topic comes up a lot where people use a form builder like WS Form, which is what I've got here, or the native bricks builder forms. Now I'm using WS Form because it is the hands down, in my view, the best form builder out there. It has incredible flexibility. There's pretty much nothing you can't do with it, except for it doesn't have a lot of styling that you can do. There's basically, here's the form, here's how it works, here's all the amazing features, but it's up to you to make it look good, right? Styling is just pretty standard, basic styling, which is what you're seeing on the screen there. There are other form builders which create nicer styles, but they don't have the depth of features that WS Form has. So I'd rather go with the one that does everything and then spend a little time styling it myself. So I'm going to show you how to create a styled stepped form using WS Form. And the methodology that I use in here, you can use with any form. You can use it with the native bricks forms, you can use it with gravity, you can use it with whatever you want, because it's exactly the same concept. Okay, so don't go buying a form builder because you like the styles, you like these fancy options that you've got. Buy the one that does the most and then style it to do what you want to do, in my view. All right. That said, I've got a very basic WS form here, and all I've done is create a standard form with 3 tabs. And the first tab, I've got some fields and a next button. The middle tab, I've got some fields and a previous and next button. And my last tab, I've got a field and a submit and previous button. I have done nothing else to this form whatsoever. I haven't added any classes in the advanced settings, etc. Now you might want to do that, but I think it's easier to do it without doing that. And I'll explain why. I normally use BEM class naming. Now, because when we put a WS form or any other form on the editor, we have access in the editor to that element. We can't name the classes on all of the elements underneath that. So what I'd rather do is use whatever they've done rather than have to go into every form and add classes to each element, including each section, each tab, all that sort of stuff, so that we can style it with BEM naming. It just makes more sense to just leave it as it is and then style it with whatever they've done. All right. So I'm going to split this into 2 videos, and the reason for that is actually quite a lot to go through. And what I've got here is I've got a stepper up the top here, so it's just tabs. I'm going to turn that into more of a stepper look, and I'm going to treat all of the inputs in the form and that sort of stuff there in the second video, because there's quite a bit to go through with that. And the reason being is that this stepper that we're going to create up here is really just for the step forms. The rest of it, the inputs, the buttons, the checkboxes, all that sort of stuff, is common to a lot more forms. It may be all your forms, it may be certain type of forms that you give a class to, but they're kind of separate even though they're related. So I'm just going to do the stepper in this video, and then we'll come back in the next one and we'll do all the inputs as well. So where do we start? The first thing we do is we need to go to our WS form elements. So just on the builder here, I've just gone WS form and I've entered my WS form element there, and then I've selected a form. All right, that's all I've done so far. I'm then going to give that element a class name in brick. So up here, I'm going to put a prefix on this. I'm going to use my initials, AB dash, and I know it's WS form, so I'm going to do WSF, and I'll call it a stepped form. Okay, now why we use the prefix is because WSF is the prefix that WS form use. I don't know if they have or will ever have a class WSF stepped form, but what I want to do is make sure that if they do, then my class is not going to clash with theirs. So by putting a AB in front of that, AB dash, that means it makes it unique, and I'm not going to have the worry of it clashing at some point in the future. So I'm just going to create that class, and that's all I'm going to do for the moment, because I'm going to view that on the front end and see what have I got to work with. So I'm going to view that in the front end here, bring up my dev tools, use my inspector, and go to that tab bar there. Okay, on that tab bar, I can see down in the inspector down here, I've got a tab list. Here's my form there. So I've got my WS form. Where are we? Here we go. There's my WS form elements. There's my class that I just put onto that element, the ABWSF step form. And then I've got the actual form itself. And then I've got my tabs here, the WSF tabs. Okay, and it's also got WSF tab groups. At this point, I don't know how it's named these styles, what's actually used for that. But we've also got a role of tab list. Now, because this might be different, I don't know whether that's going to change, whether that's different forms might use different classes, I don't know. I like to use the attribute because it's got a role of tab list as an attribute. I'm going to use that as my selector. So I'm going to copy that attribute back over to Bricks. I'm going to go into my CSS, and I'm using advanced CMS shortcuts here. You can certainly get there by going through and clicking on style, content, CSS. I like using these shortcuts. There's my shortcut, there's my CSS. So I'm going to start with pressing R and then tab, which is R, that was going to be root, which is related to my class name. And then I'm going to space, I'm going to do square brackets, and I'm going to put my role tab list in there. So that's an attribute selector. So that's the first thing I'm going to do with that. I'm just going to close that. I'm going to see if this actually does what I want it to do, which is remove the bottom border there. So I'm going to put border of none. Okay, and we can see it didn't remove it. Let's see why. If we go back over to here and have a look at our UL and have a look at our rule that we just created, which is that one there, and just point our mouse at that selector, we can see we've got a specificity of 0 to 1. So the left hand is the IDs, the center is the classes and attributes, and the right is elements. And it's a rule where a ID has a higher specificity than classes and attributes than elements themselves. So the more numbers you've got in the center or the left, the more specific that rule is considered to be. So if we look at the one from WS Form, it's got a specificity of 0 to 1. So it's got 2 classes or attributes and 1 element. So what is that going on there? So we've got a WS Form, WSF form, and a WSF group tabs as classes, and we've got an element of UL, which gives us the 1. So that is more specific than this, right? So it doesn't matter what order these load in, that one's going to apply. So we need to make ours more specific. Okay, so how do we do that? We can try making it more specific by adding the UL to the tab list. Let's try that and see what happens. So if we add the UL and save that, have a look, still not there. Okay, see what's going on. So we got the tab list here, and now we have a specificity of 0 to 1, right? The WSF specificity is 0 to 1. So what's happening here? Now that they both have exactly the same specificity, it comes down to what order did they load in. If my CSS loaded first and this loaded later, then that one's going to apply. If it was the other way around, if this CSS loaded first and this one loaded later, then this one would apply because they have exactly the same specificity. Okay, so what we need to do is increase our specificity. And if we can do that, I can look at their rule, and they've got the WSF, sorry, we'll look at this part here. They've got WSF tab groups. Okay, if we look at the actual class here, we've got 2 classes there. We've got WSF group tabs and we've got WSF tabs. All right, so we could increase the specificity by grabbing that, coming back to here, and we're going to add dot WSF tabs and see what happens there. See how it's gone now? We save that, have a look at the front end. We now have no border at the bottom. We look at our UL now, we will see now, there's the original WS form rule, which has got a specificity of 021. Here's our rule, which has a specificity of 031. Right? So we could actually probably remove that UL. We don't need it because the tabs, the classes and attributes is a specificity of 3. Let's do that actually. We won't dwell on this on the others. This is really just demonstrating how you would find what specificity you actually need. Get rid of the UL and it still works because now we have a specificity of 030 and they have a specificity of 021. Okay? So we found the minimum really that we need to make this rule work. So we've done that. Now, let's have a look at a tab here. And I'm not going to look at the selected one because that will have a different rule. We're going to add the general one first. So I'm going to select a non-active tab. And then we go to that A, which is the tab itself. And we have a look at what we've got here. There's all the styling on there. So the borders, all that sort of stuff there, right? So we know we've already got up to that point there because we selected that back here. We've gone up to that point there. We know we've already got that. So all we need is this next bit here to add to that. All right. So I'm going to come back to our form. I'm going to grab that rule that we already know works. I'm going to put that, just paste that there. And I'm going to grab the rest of this. Whoops. Just the bits after that we've already determined. I'm going to copy that, put that over into here. And we're going to set our border to none. To none. And we're going to set our background to transparent. Okay. So let's go. So we know now we go, no, we didn't have it on there anyway because of the standard styling. But we know now if we have a look at that A, we have our rule with a specificity of 032, their rule with a specificity of 023. Okay, so because the middle number is higher on ours wins. All right, we still have a background on this contact though. That's the active tab. Okay, I've got a slight gray in my background so I can see this kind of thing, and I can see, I don't know if you can see it in the video, but I can see that there's a white background on the active tab. So let's have a look at that. Let's have a look at the active tab and see what's different about the rule there. If we look along there, there's the rule. What can I see? I can see that the li has a tab active on it, right? So go back to our rules over here, and what we're going to do is copy all of that, put a comma, base, add that there, and on the li, we're going to add a dot tab active. So we're targeting the active tab as well. That didn't look right. Let's see what's going on. WSF, I didn't see that bit there. So we're going to add WSF tab active. We can see on our active tab it's now gone. Okay, so now we don't have anything on the active tabs whatsoever, right? But we do still have an active tab. So if I look at that active tab there, when I click on it, everything's fine, okay? It's got rid of our focus. Everything has gone there because we've been so specific. We've overridden the focus style as well. If you're not sure, what you can do is just select one of these on that tab there. Just right click on it and then do a force state of focus and just see if there's any focus styles that you need to remove as well, which you do in the same way. So that is that. Now, what we're going to do is put a number in front of each of these. And then we're going to look at our spacing that we've got. So heading to back to bricks, what I'm going to do is our tab list. Sorry, our tabs, where's our tabs? The UL there. Yep, WCF tabs is our tab group. So on there, I'm just going to tidy that up a little bit. We're going to start a counter. So we're going to do counter reset, and we'll call this stepped tabs. Okay, do a counter reset. And then what we're going to do is target just the li. I'm going to grab all of that. We're going to target our allies. And on there, we're going to do counter increment of counter. Let's just step tabs. I think you just put the name there. Step tabs. Okay, so we just told it that our tab list is going to reset that counter, and every time we get to an ally, increment that counter by 1. Now, it is not an OL, it is a UL, but we can still use this in the same way. Technically, we probably should, it should be an OL, I'm not 100% sure, but we'll just do it that way anyway. All right, now what we're going to do is we want to target the A's here, and we want to put a number in front of them. All right, so I'm going to go to that rule there. I'm going to grab that rule up to the A. Okay, and we're going to do a content. So we're going to do a before. So we want to target the before. So I'm going to do a before. And we're going to target the content. I'm going to set the content to our counter of our step tabs. All right. We can see now we've got a number in front of each of these. Okay. Now I want to style those a little bit. So I'm going back to the front end, go to one of these tabs. There it is there. So we're on the A. What we're going to do is have a look at what is this. So I'm going to go compute it. I'm going to go display. What's our display setting? Display is block. So on that there, I'm just going to use the element style. I'm going to set my display to flex, flex, direction to row, and I'm going to put a space in. I'm just going to do a gap of, say, for now, 10 pixels, and I'll pick this up later. Okay, so we can see now we've got a gap between our number and our text. Okay, so I'm just going to copy all of that. Actually, where do we want to put that? We want to put it on the tab, which we've already got a link to. So I'm just going to grab that I just created, come back to bricks, and on our A, on our LI, no, on our A, these are all ending in the A, so we can just put it there. Because these are both targeting the non-active and the active tab, doesn't really matter. We can create a separate rule or just chuck it on here because we know that this is targeting the same things. Was that pretty fire thing on here? This is advanced schema, beautify CSS. There we go. Isn't that nice? Okay. And that feature I just did was an advanced schema feature, not a built-in bricks feature. So there we go, that beautified. Now we've got our tabs set up, ready to go. Now, what I would now do is look at our befores and start styling those. So I'm going to look at the before, and I'm going to put a background of, let's make it green for now, and I'm going to update this later. We're going to set the color. Actually, let's make the background transparent. Transparent. We're going to set the border to 1px solid green. We'll update all this later. We're going to set the width to 40px, and we're going to set the border radius to 50%. Let's set our aspect ratio to 1, so we've got a square. Put whatever in there. To 1. We're going to set, is this, no, it's okay. So we're going to set that to 1. We'll set our line height to 1. So we don't have any weird spacing in there. See that moved, that'll change the line height. All right. that is, I think, enough for now. Now, for where we got the A, the A is there. So it's inside the A. We want to set the, save that. Here we go. There they are there. So we go to there, and what we're going to do is on that A, it is set to flex. We want to look at centering all this content. Now, I think there's actually a really easy way of doing that. You can use the justify content and place, I think it's place content from memory. Place content, center. No, it must be place items. I'm in the wrong place. I'm in the wrong place. So I need to be on the before. There's the before there. And it's not set to flex. So we need to set that to flex. And we need to place content to center. Place items. I get confused between these. Place that to center. There we go. So place items. So we don't need to place content, I think. Get rid of that. But we do. We need both. I think there's actually a shortcut for this, but I can't remember what it is. I'll just do place content and place item. Okay. So let's put them in the center. So we're going to grab those two rules there and come back to our before. Where is our before? There. And we're going to paste those in there. So it's sitting in the center. All right. We're getting somewhere, aren't we? Now we can see that we've got a problem with the alignment along here. So we come back to the front end and we go to our A there. We need to align items. There we go. That'll do. This little helper in Chrome is just brilliant. So you have to remember all the weird naming that they've got for this stuff. So I'm going to grab that and go back to our A. So that's not the A befores, it's the A's. Put that in there. So that centers everything. And we're getting close. We're getting close. So I think we've got a bit of a problem here. We've got some padding on the left or something on there. What is that? Oh, that's okay. That's padding around. Could we get rid of that? Do we need it? I think we do. I think we do. We'll leave that there. We're not going to worry about that. All right. So we can see our numbers are there. We've got all that there. What we don't have is any change on when it's active. Now, I've got a way of doing this that's a little bit different to what many others will do, is create more rules, which basically duplicate these. I'm going to show you a better way of doing this, what I think is a better way, which is going to start from the root. I'm going to create what they call a settings block here, what I call a settings block. So I'm going to look at my, what we call them, the counter. So I'll call it the counter. I'm going to create a variable for that. So the counter, we'll call it border, we'll make it 2 pixels, solid. Let's use our colors from a framework that we should have in here. So I'm going to make this primary. I'm just going to make that our 2 pixel solid primary. Okay. You'll use whatever framework you use, or solid colors, or whatever you want to use here. I'm going to use my framework variables for this. Okay. And we want the counter border radius of 50%. Okay, counter background of transparent, and that will give us that. Now what do we want? We want to set some typography. Let's go counter color. Actually, we want the color. Let's go just go black for now. And we want to counter wrong way around. Counter font size of, let's make that our text. Again, you can use your framework or you can put in fixed values, whatever you want. I'm going to use my framework here. Counter, font weight. We can make that normal. Okay. So we're going to apply these here instead of using fixed values further down here. Oh, we'll just do a counter width first. And we're going to make that, let's make it say 50 pixels. So we're going to grab our counter width. Going to come down to where we've used that width, which is our width here. Replace that with a variable. Okay, see that counter width, we made it bigger. Counter border, grab that, go to our border. We're going to replace that with a variable. So it's got a 2 pixel solid border now, okay, with our primary color. Radius, so we might want to change this at some point. We'll change that there. Okay. Leave the aspect ratio and place items there. Counter background. Counter background. Where is our background? Counter background. Okay. Counter color. That would be, do we even set a color? No, we didn't. Let's go down there. Oops. Color. And we're going to do the font size. Not font size, font size. Really got to do some typing lessons, I think. Font size. It seems like a bit of work, but once you've done this, it is so easy to change all your settings up here, create modifiers if you want different versions of it. It's much, much easier to work with once you've done it. I think we're going to do the font weight, and we're going to do that as a font weight here. All right. So there's our font weights, font sizes, borders, all that sort of stuff. Okay. Now, what about our active tab? Okay. When we have a look at the active tab here, like if I select that contact there, we have a look at the active tab, we have a class of WSF tab active on the li. Okay, so what we're going to do is go and create some different states for the active state. I think our border will change. So let's go change our border to, so we'll just separate these into pairs. I'm going to use my BEM methodology here for a modifier. I'm going to do 2 dashes active. Okay, and then we're going to make that primary, I don't know, L4. That'll do for now. Border radius we won't change. Background and color we will change. I'm going to cut those out of there, stick them up into a pair. Just reorder these to make them make more sense. So where we've got pairs, background color black. Let's grab those. Just duplicate those. Okay, so hold on, I'm getting ahead of myself here. I'm just going to grab one at a time. Grab that. And we're going to make that a primary. Okay, and we're going to make that a active. Okay, and we're going to do the color. Active. And we'll make that our white in this particular case. Okay, so now we've got some pairs here that we can use for changing state. This could be your hover states. This could be your active state, your focus state. Doesn't matter what it is. So let's grab a rule down here which targets the active, because we've already done it. We've got a active state there. I'm going to grab that rule there because we know that's targeting the active tabs. So I'm going to grab that rule, going to copy that. And we're going to, I'll move it up underneath our rules here so it just makes sense while we're working on this. I'm going to put that there. So we've created a new rule just to target the active tabs. And what we're going to do is grab all of the stuff that we have peers, copy that, paste it into there. Okay. And instead of putting a value there, we're just going to copy the active value there and make that a variable. Okay, and then get rid of that line. And the counter background, we want to make the counter active color. Okay, and then we've got the color. We're going to make the color active. Okay, look what we got here. Active colors, active states. Just by changing, targeting our active state here, and then changing the value of those variables to be the active value of those variables. So that is what I do. It makes it really easy when I come back to this. Instead of having to go through all the CSS and go, where do I change those values? You have a look at your settings block up here and go, oh, okay, so I've got a border color and I've got an active border color. I've got a background and I've got an active background. These also are correct. ACT, not correct. So I have to update that. Just a typo there. Okay. All right, so we're done with that. All right, now that is on the front end. Here is our tabs turned into steppers, right? But we haven't done anything with the text here, right? So make that black. So make that a bit bolder. So let's have a look at our label. Maybe we just want to, we'll just do one value on here. So we'll do the label. Actually, we'll do two. Label. Label. Oh my goodness. We'll call it font size. We'll make this text. Make that a text L as well. So it's the same as our numbers. We'll do a label, so I don't have to keep typing this. I'm going to copy that. A label color would be, we'll just do it black again. Label font weight. Make it normal. What else do we need? I think that's about it we need for the moment. So let's target a label. So we still want to just do this as a normal setting. So for our li, our a's, we can put on the li or the a's. Let's go to the a's. Let's go grab those variables that we've just got there. And we'll go down to, for some reason, this isn't scrolling down. Some shit happening here. Okay. All right, so on our A's here, I'm going to just add those in there, and we're going to set the font size. Okay, this is our font size, automatically bigger. All right, color. And what else we got? The font weight. All right, so we've styled up our labels there now. Okay, now what we're going to do is go back to our variables here and go, okay, font size, we want to stay the same. What do we want to do when we are active? Let's make our color active. We'll make that a primary color. Make that our primary, okay? Font weight, oh, typos. Font weight here, and then font weight active. We'll make that bold. Okay, so we're going to grab those, go down to our active rule here, and let's do the same thing we did with the counter. Okay, I'm just going to fix up that typo down here as well. Wait, okay. So now we've got a normal state of just the transparent background with the primary border and a large text with normal font weight. When it's active, we get a primary background with a white number, and there's a lighter version of the primary, the border, and we get a bold primary label. So that's it. That's pretty much how you work through and figure this out and label things. Actually, there's one more thing I want to do while I'm here, and that is the way that transitions from one to the other. This here, the way this is done with, let's have a look at our groups. I think it's these here. We have a look at these. See, we've got the display none property. And as we switch between them, it just changes the display none. It doesn't add any class here, so we have to use that attribute to change things. So I'm going to use that to change the way that these actually switch. I'm going to grab that whole property of display none, just exactly as it is there. So we need to copy the whole thing. And what we want to do is come back to our form builder here. I'm going to come down here. Maybe I'll call this put a comment here so it's the content or panels. Just paste that there. So we've got it. Put it in square brackets because it is a element selector. An attribute selector. So we want to go through and we want to look at our root tab list. And what is that? It is WSF groups. I'll go to WSF groups. So we're going to make this quite specific. Tab list, I'm going to go dot WSF groups. And then we're going to set the style display none to have opacity of 0. All right, they're just going to display none of this, opacity of 0. Now here's where it gets a little bit tricky. Because if we want this to work, we're going to have to take that whole rule there, go there, and we're going to have to add a not, not. Style display none. We can set that to be opacity of 1. All right, save that, have a look, and it's doing exactly the same thing. What if we put a transition on that? If we put a transition of all 1 second ease, save that, it makes no difference. So for whatever reason with the CSS spec, when you use a transition, it does not work when you're going from display none to display whatever. So you're going to have to use, instead of that, we're going to have to use an animation. So I'm going to go take that out, and I'm going to take that out. I'm going to put an animation of, we'll call it, all right, WSF panel transform or transition. Okay, let's give it an animation name of that. Okay, and then we're going to create some keyframes with that name. We're going to start at 0% of opacity of 0. And there we go, 100%. Opacity of 1. Now on our animation, we've got the name of it. How long do we want to go for? Let's say 1 second and make it an ease. Let's see if it actually works. It's not working. Let's jump in and see what's going on. Okay, let's see. So we've got our panels. Where's our panels? Here we go. So here's a tab panel. Got something wrong with our targeting. Here we go. No, we've got something wrong with our targeting. So if we got our WCF group where we don't have display none, WCF group, where it has display none, let's have a look here. Oh, I think that's the problem there. I've got a no space there. So that's expecting the WCF groups to be on the same element as that tab list. Let's have a look now. No, it's not fixed it. Okay. All right. Let's go back to that. All right. What do we have? On the display none, do we have it targeted at all? We don't. All right. Let's go back and see what we've got. All right, so we want to go from our root with a roll of tab, then roll of tab. That's our problem because the groups are not under our tab list, I think. Or are they? They are. There's the tab list there. No, it's not. It's not under the tab list. So we need to get rid of that tab list. Pick the tricky one here. There we go. All right, so there's our form. And we've got it fading in. That might be a bit too quick, too long, say 0.6 seconds. Okay, there we go. So now we've got a stepped tab bar where we've got a styled counter, we've got a styled active state, and we've got our content coming in using a transition. So that's pretty much it. It's been a very long video because there's a lot to cover and just trying to work out where to put things and how to put things. But the key here is to use your DevTools inspector and find out what have you got to work with first, and then have a look at your specificity on your rules and make sure that your specificity that you put on your rules trumps the specificity that is on the default rules from the vendor's CSS. And that's pretty much the process you have to go through. Now that you have a class for it though, you get any form, add your tabs to it, add your class to it, and you're automatically going to have the styling applied to it. So that's the first part. We've done the stepper at the top. Next video, we're going to go through and look at how do we style all of the inputs and elements of that form. We'd use a different approach to that, slightly different approach, because we're going to use framework variables for all that, because the stepper at the top here is really unique to the step form. The inputs and checkboxes and buttons, all that sort of stuff, they might be common to a lot of different types of form. So it's a different approach to that, but it is the same approach to the styling. It's just that where we get the variables for styling it is a bit different. Okay, so that's the that's this video here. I'm going to leave it at that. Hope you like this. Look forward to the next one, which we're going to go through the rest of this. But if you like it, hit the subscribe, hit the like. Thanks, guys.